Part 4, Trauma Trap. Trauma is merely imagination. Trauma is merely imagination. This doesn't mean your experience of trauma cannot feel as absolutely real and hinder your happiness. It does. On the other hand, the experience or reactivation of the trauma would not happen without imagining the past trauma event again in the present moment, as seen in our first 3 videos in this series of the Trauma Trap. Hence, our statement, trauma is merely imagination. Imagination is the mind's capacity to generate internal experience without needing external input. It is the function that allows you to combine memories, sensations, knowledge, and symbols, reconstruct what has happened, forecast what could happen, simulate what has never happened, and experience it as real on the inside. In more precise terms, imagination equals internal simulation. Your mind is constantly running simulations to anticipate outcomes, test emotional responses, evaluate possibilities, and guide decision-making. It is not fantasy. It is the brain's predictive intelligence system. The challenge, however, is, the brain and the mind can only perceive and evaluate what has already happened, which is past. Always. Even when we have an experience in the present, the brain and mind will foremost respond with behavior it adopted in the past and will only be able to evaluate the current experience after it becomes past. The brain does therefore not treat imagination and perception as 2 separate systems. When you imagine something, your brain activates the same neural regions involved in seeing, hearing, feeling, moving. The only difference, the sensory input is coming from memory and internal association rather than the external world. So internally imagined experience is neurologically real, just without physical execution. The psychological function of imagination? Imagination is how you assign meaning to events. Create identity, who I believe I am. Create reality narratives, how life works. Create future possibilities, vision. It is the mechanism behind hope, anxiety, creativity, trauma flashbacks, and spiritual intuition. When imagination works with fear, it produces anxiety. When imagination works with love or curiosity, it produces creativity and expansion. The spiritual, metaphysical lens, imagination is the interface between consciousness and the material world. It is the zero-point field in the psyche where unmanifested potential becomes form, ideas become concepts, concepts become intention, intention becomes action, action becomes reality. In this sense, imagination is the womb of creation. Everything that exists in physical form existed first as imagination. You can also say, imagination is consciousness remembering what it is capable of manifesting. The emotional or soul layer, imagination is how the soul speaks in images, symbols, sensations, and directions, not words. It is the bridge where the infinite becomes personal, the intuitive becomes understandable, the unknown becomes possible. In summary, imagination is a simulation engine, a creative force, a meaning maker, a bridge between inner and outer worlds, the mechanism through which consciousness expresses potential. Or in the simplest possible form, imagination is how reality rehearses itself before it becomes real. And in the case of trauma, this rehearsal is always rooted in the traumatic past, becoming traumatic past present tense, or worse, past present tension. Before it becomes real, before it can become real, before it eventually turns out not to become real. Imagination already makes it feel real. But it becomes reality when we persist in our own imagination. Still, it is the question about the chicken and the egg. Does your trauma imagination become reality because of the trauma or because of the repeated fear imagination of your past, and is it therefore a self-fulfilling prophecy? Let's investigate. If we simply say reality is materialized imagination, it sounds like wishful thinking or fantasy. The deeper mechanism is more structured. 1. Imagination equals the blueprint. Imagination generates the internal model of what could be. This model contains form, meaning, emotional tone, purpose, expected outcome. It is not yet physical, but it is real as a pattern in consciousness. Imagination creates the architecture of potential. 2. Attention is the activator. What you repeatedly focus on becomes neurologically prioritized. The brain begins to reorganize neural pathways around the imagined pattern. This is neuroplasticity, predictive coding, Hebbian learning, neurons that fire together wire together. Your perceptual system starts selecting information that aligns with the imagined model. What you consistently imagine, you begin to perceive. 3. Emotion is the fuel. Emotion gives the imagined pattern energetic charge. Fear-charged imagination leads to anxiety, avoidance, limitation. Love and curiosity-charged imagination leads to creativity, risk-taking, expansion. Emotion determines whether the blueprint expands, contracts, or stagnates. Emotion turns imagination into belief. 4. Belief is the permission slip. Belief says, "This is possible for me," the pathway opens. "This is not possible for me," the pathway collapses. Belief does not create reality directly. Belief controls whether you allow reality to move in that direction. Belief unlocks or blocks manifestation. 5. Behavior is the embodiment. Only when imagination changes behavior does it enter the material field. This means new choices, new communication, new boundaries, new investments of energy and time. Behavior is the bridge. Imagination becomes reality only when it reaches the body. 6. Reality is the physical echo. The physical world rearranges around your perception, decisions, emotional frequency, and consistent action. Physical reality is the last stage of manifestation, not the first. Reality is the echo of the imagination that was believed and embodied. Therefore, yes, manifestation is materialized imagination, but only when 1. Imagination creates the blueprint, leading to possibility and the outcome. 2. Attention maintains the blueprint, leading to focus on the outcome. 3. Emotion charges the blueprint, leading to giving meaning to the outcome. 4. Belief approves the blueprint, leading to internal permission given to the outcome. 5. Behavior enacts the blueprint, leading to the embodiment of the outcome. 6. Reality echoes the blueprint, leading to the manifestation of the imagined outcome. One-sentence conclusion: reality is imagination that has been believed, felt, acted upon, and sustained long enough to take form. Now the deeper question, and the one that matters in our work to release trauma: what determines whether imagination becomes expansion or suffering? The answer is the emotional state, whether imagination is driven by fear, trauma, ego, or by love, unified person, solar consciousness. We will elaborate on this in our next video. To be continued.